So this woman right here, her name is Babita Deokaran, and she got murdered just for speaking the truth. Yeah, for exposing corruption. She was the acting chief financial officer at the Gauteng Department of Health in South Africa, and she blew the whistle on a COVID-19 PP corruption scandal worth around $20 million. On August 23, 2021, after dropping her daughter off at school, she parks outside her house in Johannesburg South, and someone pulls up and opens fire. Multiple shots. She's dead right there. But here's what makes this even crazier. This wasn't random. People were tracking her for weeks, maybe even monitoring her phone, and the security cameras near her house were mysteriously turned off right before the attack. Someone wanted her gone, plain and simple. Babita wasn't just crunching numbers, bro. She was smart, careful, and brave. She had worked her way up to acting CFO, managing huge amounts of money for the health department. And when she saw people taking advantage of the COVID-19 crisis, inflating prices, looting funds meant for protective equipment, she stood up and said something. You've got to understand the stakes. We're talking our $332 million, which is about $20 million US, disappearing into corrupt hands. Babita wasn't the kind of person to look the other way, and she knew that if she spoke up, she'd be taking on some very dangerous people. But she did it anyway. Now here's where it gets chilling. On that morning, she leaves her house, drops her daughter off, comes back, and parks. And that's when the hitmen strike. Reports say the attackers were professionally trained, and that Babita had been stalked for over a month. They knew her routine, knew when she'd be home, and exactly how to kill her. Witnesses reported seeing a suspicious BMW around her neighborhood for days before the attack. It was traced to a former South African National Defense Force member, which eventually led to arrests. At the scene, multiple shots fired. No hesitation. This wasn't about theft. It was a planned assassination to silence a key witness in a massive corruption investigation. Once Babita was gone, authorities started piecing it together. Neighbors had spotted the same car repeatedly. CCTV cameras had been disabled, but authorities worked with what they could get. Police traced the vehicle, interviewed a passenger who had been in Babita's car earlier that day, and began identifying suspects. 6 men were arrested 3 days later. This is an image of them. Mlinganiso Ndlovu, Sifakanisa Dladla, Zitha Radebe, Simpiwe Mazibuko, Sunil Mbeel, and Fakamani Radebe. These guys were allegedly hired assassins, and the media reported they were paid about $120,000 each to carry out the hit. Some of them even implicated others as the masterminds behind the assassination. And now it gets messy. Fakamani Radebe, one of the arrested men, claimed that former health minister Zweli Mkhize paid them roughly $24,000 each, but later retracted it. Still, it sparked public outrage. Babita's death raised questions about why ordinary whistleblowers get no protection, while high-profile officials get armed security details. President Cyril Ramaphosa even addressed it publicly, saying the government needed to better protect whistleblowers in the fight against corruption. Meanwhile, investigations showed that multiple syndicates were looting funds from Tembisa Hospital and other facilities, with tens of millions of US dollars flowing into companies linked to politically connected individuals, including Hangwani Mamila, who had secured at least $25 million US in contracts. Fast forward to the legal side. The 6 men involved in Babita's murder were sentenced in the Johannesburg High Court to a combined 95 years in prison. The breakdown. Radebe and Mbeel, 22 years each for murder. Radebe and Mazibuko, 15 years each for murder. Dladla, 8 years for murder plus 7 years for possession of a firearm, 15 years total. Ndlovu, 6 years for murder. But here's the kicker. The people who ordered the killing haven't been caught. Investigators are still trying to trace the masterminds, and Babita's family continues to demand justice. After Babita's death, the chief executive of Tembisa Hospital and the Provincial Department of Health chief financial officer were suspended. For months later, one of the men implicated by the assassins, Kaniasani Mpungose, was killed in Germiston. By 2024 to 2025, the Special Investigating Unit said they were finalizing the investigation into the murder and related corruption syndicates. Millions of US dollars were traced to companies like Black Alaska Trading and Suppliers and CORK Bang Trading and Suppliers, and arrests continue for other corruption-related charges. The case remains a touchstone for South Africa's fight against corruption, highlighting the dangers whistleblowers face when they expose the truth. Quick thing, if stories like this matter, hit subscribe so more people hear them. So yeah, this woman right here, Babita Deokaran, stood up, spoke the truth, and paid with her life. She wasn't asking for fame. She wasn't looking for a fight. She just wanted to stop corruption and save lives. And even though the people who pulled the trigger are in jail, the real people behind it, still out there. This is the story of courage, betrayal, and the high price of honesty in a system where money and power sometimes speak louder than truth.